So here are the signs that your husband is unhappy in the marriage, because these are consequences of you and how you are showing up. And this is what I had to see for myself. Again, I don't talk about anything in my videos that I haven't had to see in myself. And it was when I was able to shine the light, to be called out, to see these things about myself, that I could actually change. And then my marriage changed. And that's what I want for you too. But we have to do the roll our sleeves up and do the not fun part of taking a hard look in the mirror to see what it is about us that we're creating our husband's unhappiness in the relationship. So here are the signs. If your husband drinks more, a lot of women complain about their husband drinking. And like, yeah, it's the first thing he does when he gets home, or he's drinking so much more than when we first met. That's a sign that he's unhappy in the marriage. And we're going to talk more today about where does that stem from. If your husband is working more hours, or working later into the evening, if your husband is distant and unavailable. So I hear from a lot of women complain, my husband's always on his phone, and husbands will have the same experience that their wives are always on their phone, but that's a different angle, another topic for another time. But feeling that he's always on his phone, or he's always playing video games, or he's always watching sports, or he's always doing something else, and he's completely unavailable to me. Another sign that your husband is unhappy, that he doesn't participate in household responsibilities. So he stopped being a part of the household. He stopped doing his responsibilities. If you as the woman feel like you have another child instead of a man and a husband in your marriage, if that's how you're feeling, that's a sign your husband is unhappy in the relationship, because he's rebelling against you, constantly making him wrong, and the other things that we do that when we show up as emotionally abusive in the relationship. And the last sign is that your husband is depressed. Another thing that I hear a lot from women, and you can look at the statistics in the US to see the rising number of depression in men and among married men. So those are the signs that your husband is unhappy. And what I want women to understand is that we believe that our husband is just withdrawing and they've checked out of the relationship, and it's something about them that they need to change. And so what we start doing is we try to work on changing our husband, thinking that we're working on the marriage and working on the problems in the marriage, which we see as these things. My husband drinks too much. He works too much. He's distant and unavailable. He doesn't participate in household responsibilities or chores. I feel like I have a child. He's depressed. And that's the reason and cause of the problems in our marriage. So as women, we try to come at it from that angle, because again, we don't want to take accountability and responsibility to look at ourselves. But what I want women to know is that it's not your marriage or your husband that is the problem. We are the problem because we are unhappy in ourselves and we have an unhealthy relationship with ourselves. That's the very reason that we make our husbands wrong, is that it is a reflection and a projection of how we feel about ourselves on the inside. And we think that we can just show up and we're entitled to show up however we want. And that no matter who we are, no matter how we treat our husbands, no matter what we do to them, that they should always be there and they should be engaged and happy and do the things we want them to do in the relationship. Life doesn't work that way. Again, there are consequences for our behaviors. So when you're constantly making your husband wrong, and you have to slow down to be honest with yourself of how you do that, because a lot of you, your first fight will be, I don't do that. That's not me. But if your husband is displaying any of these signs that I talked about, it is a reflection of you making him wrong in the marriage. So it's slowing down to look at that and recognize he's not just randomly withdrawing and pulling away. It's a symptom of you pushing him away by making him wrong. And what that means, that we often fight and don't want to know, is that we have an immense amount of power to make a marriage go really, really, really good and have it thrive and be healthy simply by changing how we show up in the relationship and letting go of making our husbands wrong. That's exactly what happened for me in my marriage, and 10 years of working with other women who all admit to this. worked with hundreds of women over the last decade in their marriages who all know these behaviors in themselves, all know they make their husband wrong, all know they have an unhealthy relationship with themselves and don't feel good about who they are on the inside. Is the magic that happens when you start working to have a healthy relationship with yourself and be happy in yourself. And you stop pushing your husband away and you stop making him wrong. You stop emasculating him and shaming him. And you're married to a good man, is that he re-engages in the relationship in all of the ways that he was showing up negatively in response to you goes away. And I didn't believe my mentor when he taught me this. And I threw up a fight and I dug my heels in. But when I came to accept it and I actually started to show up differently with my husband, it's exactly what happened. He started wanting to spend time together. He was eager to help out around the house. He was eager to find things he could do to support me and help me. He started drinking less. He started wanting to be around. He was available. He wasn't distant anymore. And it became crystal clear to me that the ways he was showing up was a direct result of how I was in the relationship, because the only person that changed was me. And then the whole dynamic of my marriage changed. And my husband and I continue to thrive, continue to grow together, continue to have a healthy, happy relationship. So ladies, it's up to you. And the solution and the understanding is it's not anything about your marriage or your husband. It's you and being unhappy in yourself and having an unhealthy relationship with yourself. And how you can know that is that you beat yourself up. You make yourself wrong. You're critical of yourself. You never feel enough. You put on the mask and face of who you think you need to be liked and accepted by others. You don't have a sense of self-worth or self-value. You don't feel good about yourself. Those are all the signs that we don't have a healthy relationship with ourselves. And we've never been taught that or even known that we really need that. So that's the solution. And that's what I teach women how to do. And if you only work on yourself to be happy and build a healthy relationship with yourself, and you're married to a good man, a man who's kind, loving, hardworking, responsible, the majority of you are married to good men. If you are a nice person, even if it's externally in a facade, chances are you married a nice, good man. Most of you are married to good men. And if that's the case and you work on yourself to be happy and have a healthy relationship with yourself, that's the solution to these problems in your marriage. And it's recognizing the grave effect that you have on your husband and how we can make them feel these ways just by shaming them and constantly making them wrong. What I want men to know is that being aware that your wife is making you wrong, is emasculating you, that what happens for good men is that you internalize how your wife makes you feel wrong and that you're the problem in the relationship and that it's something wrong with you, that you're drinking more or working more, that you're distant, that you're depressed, that you feel like a child in the relationship, that there's something wrong with you, that you don't want to help out anymore. And you get hard on yourself because you buy into your wife's constant shaming and emasculation. So when you can see it for what it is and recognize, oh, I've unknowingly been giving my power away to my wife, what that allows you to do is then to grow and learn from your wife's behaviors so that you can work on the weaknesses within yourself that allows the emasculation and the shaming to work. So what I teach men is you want to use the emasculation and your wife making you wrong as an opportunity to become stronger in yourself. And what happens over time is that when she makes you wrong or she's emasculating, it begins to just bounce off and it doesn't work anymore. So you don't have these symptoms of being unhappy in your marriage because you're solid within yourself. And what happens for my husband and I now, and what the best way for a good man to begin to stand up to the shaming and the emasculation in a responsible, respectful way is for you to make light of it. And so I'm a woman and I've worked really hard on myself and I've changed so much in my marriage. But every once in a while, something will fly out of my mouth or I'll give a look. I'm human. I'm not perfect. And now my husband just makes a joke. Like, hey, you want to say that a different way? Or wow, that was a great way to make me wrong. And then I can accept, like, oh, and apologize. I'm like, sorry, thank you for calling it out. And then we just move on. And it's very rare that that even happens anymore because I do take responsibility and accountability for myself now in my marriage. And that's what I want women to do. And for men, it's using these behaviors as a personal growth journey to become stronger in yourself. And what you'll notice is happens is the emasculation and the shaming happens less. And it just bounces off because you don't take it personally. I think that's what I want men to know is do not take your wife making you wrong and shaming you and emasculating you to not take it personally. It's not anything you are doing wrong or any defect in you. It's a reflection of her own relationship with herself and how badly she feels about herself on the inside. And when you know that and you can begin to see and observe how that operates, then you no longer take it personally.